Hello and welcome to this review of Cards. The game is rather simple. You open packs, build a deck and play against other players. Here I have 3 packs to open. In these packs I get a pretty nice card and then I go and put it on to one of my decks. And quickly before we play with that deck, we're going to have a look at the draft mode, because with draft mode the games you play are the same but the way it starts is different. So in draft mode you can see here it gives me different options of cards I can put into a deck. I pick from them and then I go play with this deck. It gives me the goal of winning 7 games to win rewards, and if I lose 3 I fail. To play this mode you have to get tickets which are unlocked from playing normally, as I'll show you now, and we'll talk about the gameplay as we play through this game. So the first thing that happens when you get into a game is you get to see your opponent, see what their main nation is, which is Germany. Then you get given your hand, and you get to choose from it. So you can remove cards from it and it will give you a random card from your deck to replace it, placing the previous card that you removed back in the deck. So I take out one or more expensive cards and it puts a cheap one in. The cheap ones are for early game, and that allows me to drop it down straight away. And that one's a tank with the Blitz ability. Blitz lets you tank twice in a game, and tanks can move and attack in one single move. Now, I drop down a guard, which guard prevents them from attacking either my base or my tank. He drops down a tank and I decide to move up and attack his base, making use of both the Blitz ability and the tank's ability. Then knocks out my tank, which does damage to his, but only 1 damage, which is really not much. And then he takes the front line. He then uses an order card to get 2 extra cards into his hand, and then I decide to put down my Matilda, which is a pretty strong card, at least early game. So he put down a Panzer IV G, which is a really strong card, especially early game, where you don't have very much damage. I use the Matilda to take out his Chiha, then I move forward, holding the front line. Now I have the problem that if he attacks my Matilda it will die instantly, so I put the guard up so he can only attack the guard, and end my turn. He deploys an infantry unit, destroys my guard, and he uses an order card, and the order card is to give him extra credits for his next turn. Give him 3 extra credits over the maximum credits. I use this card which takes 1 credit away from him and does 2 damage to one of the units I select, so I knock out his infantry unit. And then I decide to attack the base. He knocks out my Matilda, but it does a lot of damage to his new unit. And then it's my turn. After he pushes up and takes the front line with the Panzer IV, I drop down the Zero. The Zero has an ability where when deployed it gives you a free attack, though it only does 1 damage. And I use this card here which deals 1 damage and pins the unit. Also I don't need the pin, but the 1 damage knocks it out. And I end my turn. He drops down the Osaka Regiment, which is a pretty strong guard unit. Now, he drops down a suppression card, which for my next turn, my Zero does 3 less damage, which is a lot. That's the majority of the damage the Zero does. I only do 1 damage with it now, so it's pretty much useless. So I'm having a look through, and I decide to drop down the 17 pounder because there's a deploy bonus which lets you pin an enemy unit so it can't make any moves or attacks next turn. And I drop down an infantry unit that's got pretty good stats. And my 0 recovers its damage from that suppression card. He moves up, defends his Panzer IV with the Osaka Regiment, drops down some other weaker cards. A little concern to me, but then dive bombs my 17 pounder, which takes away all its damage for the next turn, and also takes away one of its defense. And he still has 2 credits left, but he wastes all of his time, and it passes the turn on to me. So I'm just not looking at the 0, because obviously the 0, because it's an aircraft, can attack from the support line to anywhere else on the table. So I'm having a look at what I should destroy, and I think, well, I decide to do damage to the Osaka Regiment, and sure it kills me, but it's pretty important to get that out of the way. Which leaves the Panzer IV unguarded now, and I drop the Churchill down there, which guards both my 17 pounder and my infantry, meaning that if he wants to attack those, he has to go through my Churchills first. My 17 pounder recovers from the dive bombing card that he used before. He attacks my Churchills, but doesn't knock them out, just damages himself, and ends his turn. I get a card which does 5 damage to an enemy tank, but first I knock out his tanks there. I decide to use that to do heavy damage to his Panzer IVs, leaving on 1 health. And then I decide to drop down some, or not. I drop down a cheaper infantry because I'm trying to save some credits, but I'm not too sure what to do, so I decide to just kind of use the last of my credits on knocking out their front line, as that unit was already pretty heavily damaged anyway, so it didn't matter if I lost it too much. So he knocks out that card there, leaving me unguarded. However, it's put him onto 1 health. And with it being my turn, of course I can just knock him out if I want to. He's only at 1 health, it's pretty easy to kill him. I'll take pretty heavy damage for it if I use anything other than ulti, so I use my ulti which doesn't take damage from attacking things, making him lose the control of the front line. I take control with my infantry unit, and at this point I decide that I probably want quite a bit of artillery, so I've just taken the front line and I've decided to go hyper aggressive. Using artillery is a pretty good way of doing that, at least I've found. So I drop down a 6 pounder, 25 pounder and the 17 pounder all together at the same time, and end my turn. He drops down another Panzer IV and dive bombs my 6 pounder, which knocks it out. So I do lose one of my artillery, but we're doing pretty good. Pretty safe at this moment. We use the artillery to fire on the enemy Panzer IV. So before he's even got to move his Panzer IV or do anything with it, it's already on 2 health. I drop down another infantry card. And that also dropped down another one, giving me plenty of cards on the board. So he decides to attack my frontline unit, killing his Panzer IV. And he attacks it again, knocking out another of his units. Probably a terrible move is to knock out so many of his own cards when I have so many down. He takes the front line, but it doesn't really matter, because he's already used up all his other cards by killing that front line unit. He drops down a GR which boosts his attack on infantry units, and gets more credits for the next turn, and ends his turn. so I can't actually put that in. My support line's full, so I decide to... I was going to decide to attack, but the problem is that kills my units, so I killed that one in the end. And I decide to drop down my guard unit to protect the artillery. I knock out one of the frontline units. I use the artillery to heavily damage the other one. And we're left with 6 credits, so I decide to use both my fortification cards, giving my base 7 HP each. Leaving my base with 36 HP, which is really, really high. I now have no cards in my hand, however, he has 2, so technically he has the upper hand, but he can't actually attack my artillery, which is what he wanted to do. He should really have attacked my guard to try and get to the arty, because that's going to be the biggest problem for him. Now, aircraft can attack guarded units like that, but he could only do 1 damage, so it wasn't too big of a problem for me. I get a card which gives me +2 defense to all my British units. All my units on the field right now are British, so I get 2 extra defense to them all. And I use the arties to shoot at the 0 because that thing's going to kill my arty if I don't, and knock him out. We're pretty level in this now. We both have no cards in our hand other than the one we're getting dealt per turn. He uses dive bombing on my 25 pounder to make sure it's ineffective next turn. He moves up and gets the front line pretty heavily bolstered, but at this point he is in a pretty bad position. He decides to go on the offensive against my base, but obviously because we bolstered it with 2 fortification cards, he's pretty screwed here. I get a card which will instantly kill anything with 3 attack or less. And I knock out his Chihar, which nerfs his other 2 cards as well, because the Chihar gives +1 to attack on the other cards. Only one of my artillery cards is actually useful right now. I can use my guard card to knock him out. It takes a lot of damage to the guard card, but it knocks out his card, so worth it. And use the arty to knock him down to 1 health. My other artillery recovers from the dive bombing. And then he attacks Alexandria again. And then he surrenders, because he's nothing he could have done there at all. So you can level up like that, and so you get one of those tickets for draft mode, which I talked about earlier. And there's different achievements you can get at the end of games. So if we have a look in the shop, you can see how you get packs. You can either buy them with coins, or you can buy them with money. Currently they're doing a charity fund, which all the proceeds go to a COVID-19 fund. A UN fund, I mean, sure it's the UN, but you know. Then there is all the levels, all the different achievements and whatnot you can get. There's quite a lot of them, as you can see, and this is the first version of the game. It's only just come out. I'm sure they'll update the game in the future and add a lot more. So there's plenty of missions to go for. There's also a little bit of customization. So you see you can customize the voice lines. It's pretty standard, but you can also customize the equipment that's on the table. It's worth noting that I reviewed this game without having played a card game before. I've never played anything like it before, so it was very easy for me to pick up, considering I had no context of how card games actually work. So it's definitely worth giving a go. Even if you haven't played a card game before, you're able to pick it up straight away. It's free to play, so there's no cost to giving it a go. I think it's about 3 GB in size, and it means you can download it pretty quick. And overall, it's pretty fun. So yeah, I definitely recommend it. So thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next video, which will probably be a War Thunder video. And if you could give this a like, it'll help me in the algorithm. And goodbye.